Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Winder, and this is Robin Mons, and we are with Hungry for More. And we're so excited today to talk to you. We always discuss, well, what should we talk about next? And there's usually always something that comes up on a coaching call or something we run into in our weekly coaching because we do more outside of these podcasts. And today we're going to be talking about the true timeline of weight loss or the process of weight loss, whatever that may be. A lot of times we'll be working with clients and they will have had a weekend, right? Where they completely maybe go unconscious, eat a bunch of food, feel like they went overboard. We used to call it falling off the wagon, right? Or just not feeling too good, probably physically and mentally. And they think, oh, I'm at square one, I'm starting over. But ironically, these type of situations are actually part of the process and part of the timeline of weight loss. No one in the history, think of all the things, big things that people do, okay? You have basketball players. I'm saying that because Robin's a basketball family. You have basketball players that miss free throws. Do you think that they're ever not practicing the free throws? It's like constant watching gameplay and practicing and working on it. People who are marathon runners don't just one day wake up and go run a marathon. And it's no difference when it comes to weight management. If there is a process and there's a timeline. And we want to talk to you about that today because sometimes, we want to lose weight and we're like, I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the month. And there are extreme ways, right, where you could do that. And then the next month you will gain the 20 pounds back, right? We know that that's not this process and the timeline is extinct. It's a deadline. But, I was just talking with somebody a few weeks ago and she said, hey, I went in for my yearly checkup and had all the tests that we get to do now as we're getting older. And she said, everything was better. And the really cool thing is I was down 22 pounds. Now, when you think about that, most of us, when we want to lose weight, the majority, it's like 20, 30 pounds, right? It's not like hundreds of pounds for a lot of the people that we work with. Some, you never know. But like 22 pounds in a year, when you hear that, to me, if you break that down, that's less than 2 pounds a month. Now, how many of us, if we're actively trying to lose weight, maybe won't feel a little bit of frustration if the scale is moving less than 2 pounds a month? Really?
Right.
Right? I've been in those situations where I want to throw the scale against the wall because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so much and it's not moving. But then you go in a year later and you're down 22 pounds. And because you've gone through the process and you've followed this timeline of weight loss, which may have some highs and may have some lows along the learning path, that 22 pounds is not coming back. It is permanent. And 22 pounds is a lot of weight. And so it's very interesting to me when we talk about this timeline. And regardless of if you're somebody who doesn't need to lose weight or somebody who wants to lose 150 pounds, the mindset side of it and the things we talk about today apply to all. And so, Robin, why don't we jump in and kind of talk about that a little bit, because it's not an all or nothing deal. And it's not, oh, I'm at ground zero, I'm starting over, when things maybe feel like they fall a little bit off.
Yeah, sure. You said something gold in your beginning thing.
Oh, really?
You did. I was like, oh my gosh, that's gold. That's like a tagline. You said you eliminate the process and it becomes a deadline.
Yeah.
And that right there is the tagline for why we keep coming back around and around. We forget that it's a true transformational process from the inside out, right? From the mindset inside outwardly. And that takes time. Look at anything in your life that you have transformed, truly changed and transformed. It doesn't happen overnight. Even if you have the template of exactly how to do it, you still have to go through the process of practicing and practicing and failing and practicing and practicing. And so I love that. When weight loss, when we eliminate it as a process of transformation and we make it a deadline, that's when we know we're in temporary result territory. Yeah. So I love that. That's so true.
And I want to give a visual that we've given before where you talk, because we're talking about change in neural pathways in your brain, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, that's the cool thing about the brain is it's pliable and you can do that. Like, it's such an amazing thing. But I think such a good visual that you give on that is when you talk about, you have this pathway. Have you said it was like a cornfield before? I don't know
No,
why
but
I'm thinking
we'll take
that.
part. Yeah.
I'm thinking corn mazes right now because they're building them, right?
Oh yeah.
You take down this row, like here's the pathway, and you start a new pathway. So you have the one, which is what you're used to doing, all the same triggers and all the same behaviors around food. And then you start on this new pathway, which takes some conscious behavior and
Absolutely.
practice, and you start plowing away at that, and you start creating a new path. And when life happens and maybe you have an unconscious moment and you head over to the other path because that's what's natural to you and that's what's easy, and that's what
Easier.
the other one doesn't grow in instantly.
Right.
It's not like, oh, all is lost because you just did that again. The knowledge is there, all the information is there. And I think it's such a huge part of the process, recognizing that, because you can be like, all of a sudden now when you see a picture of yourself you're not happy with, right? You see a picture and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I look like that. I had no idea. I'm sharing with you thoughts that I've had through my life. Now, instead of getting down on yourself, it's like, okay, it's going to be so awesome to have that picture because this has been part of my process. I cannot wait until I get to this other place. And I know I got there this way and I feel so good about it. And I don't care about that picture. That's where I was in the process.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. So when you embrace it as a transformation, like if you are going for lasting results, if that's your goal and you're like, I'm getting off this roller coaster of up and downs and I want lasting results, you have to understand and remind yourself that you've signed up for the road of transformation, not the road of deadlines where you go hardcore just to get there fast and to lose it all,
Right.
the results. So what is the order? What does the process, let's get our ducks in a row on that. Well, where we tend to start and the experiences, we either see a friend having success on something, or we see that, that fit person that's selling that meal plan or whatever. And we're like, okay, they're giving me everything. They're giving me the information. I'm just going to go and do it now.
Yeah.
And that can last a little bit, but that in and of itself doesn't transform you because you're not doing the things internally that is really what changes you, right? So you don't become that fitness person you bought a plan from just by eating like she does. You're going to wear out on that. You're going to burn out on that. And back you go to how you're wired.
And so often that's where we start, right?
Yeah, that's the starting point.
I want the results. Yep. That's where we start because we want this quick satisfaction. I want to do exactly what you're doing. Tell me exactly what you're doing. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yep, exactly. So we're a little backwards here. We focus on the doing and get going. And it's like, first, let's address the source from where my behaviors are coming from in the first place. Let's work from the inside out. And that's what transformation does. And when you think of, whenever we talk about transformation, the butterfly is such a great metaphor for that, right? The caterpillar to butterfly. That process that you're doing in the brain is kind of that mushy part where you're breaking things down a little bit. Okay. And you're putting the mental effort into it, and you're not getting the payback so fast on the scale, right? But that's the part where you're like, I'm going to stay with this. I'm going to be consistent with this. I'm going to persist with my brain and the way we do it, it's the beginning of transformation looks like the conscious eating practice that we teach, which teaches you to tell the difference between your body cueing you to eat versus your mind suggesting you eat. That's how transformation begins. It's by becoming aware of that before we're reacting with the food that we're used to doing. Right. So yeah. Anything you want to say?
Well, and I was just going to say, when we work with clients, we never start with nutrition. We are usually a minimum of 60 days plus maybe some for more for others. And where we are just working on mindset, because then when you get into simple nutrition and simple principles, you've got the mindset. And so whatever you do is going to stick. It's going to be permanent. Right.
So going back to the example you were sharing, so, true transformation is coming from the inside. So if you go on that pathway, like you said, we have the well-worn one, when I'm stressed, I eat this. When I'm bored, I do this. When I'm in this situation, when I'm on vacation, all those pathways that are like memorized and well-worn, easy to walk on. the transformation begins when you say, I'm going to put awareness to what's going on when I'm being cued to eat. I'm going to first pay attention where it's coming from, my body or my mind. And then carving the new pathway looks like, I see that's my mind suggesting I eat, not even in need of this right now. I'm going to remove food as the response to this mind suggestion. That's a whack in the new path.
Yeah.
And then you just accumulate those. You do it over and over and over. And so you start with that machete cutting that pathway down. And like you said, you're going to have moments, days where you're going to see it even. You're going to be like, I knew it was a mind hunger and I still ate anyway. Okay. It doesn't mean the entire path grew back and you're starting at the very beginning.
Right.
Right. It depends how long you delay getting yourself back to cutting. Right.
Right.
But it's not a complete undoing. That square one mindset is very unuseful. It's very, it's a killer of goals, truly.
It is
right?
a killer of goals because, well, we've seen it time and time again where you feel like, oh, I'm starting over, I've lost it. Usually what happens is you go the opposite way long before you come back the other way.
Right. Yeah. You're like, well, I'll take a break from that until I can get myself motivated again to go on that hellish journey of perfection, deprivation, and white knuckling. That's what we're trying to motivate ourselves to get back to. When it's like, no, see it for what it is, start hacking away again.
Yep. Part of the process. This is part of my process to get here. Mm-hmm. And our favorite thing is, that was interesting. I'm like, some weeks I get more interesting than other, but it's like, we're these little science experiments here, right? And we get to figure it out and we get to move forward and be like, okay, what spurred that behavior? Awesome. I said no because I wasn't hungry and I went and met what my true need was. And that's satisfying.
Don't you love when we're in these conversations with our clients and they'll say, I was in this situation and I was feeling so upset by what happened with this person. And normally that's when I would go and buy a whole box of whatever and go in my car and like punish me and punish them for it. And I applied the practice and I recognized, what I really need is to step away and catch my breath and calm myself down and remind myself that I'm okay. Like that is so, it's so exciting to hear that not because we're like, yay, you didn't eat a donut. It's because it's like, you took care of yourself. You answered what was calling to you. And it's so beautiful. So that's back to the pathway that you're carving of true transformation. It's accumulating those whacks and creating that new pathway. And yes, you're going to have a day where you don't whack away. You're going to do the old thing. You're going to walk on the worn path, but you bring yourself back and you pick up and keep working. And what happens is you do start to carve a path that becomes easier and easier to walk on. That doesn't
and
feel
it becomes your more natural path, and the other one becomes foreign.
It starts overgrowing. Right?
Well,
all the times you're not answering, it's over. When you used to eat for boredom and you're not anymore, that area of the path is overgrown.
It becomes a little bit harder. I mean, I remember when I used to lose all the weight to go on the vacation. Mm-hmm. And now I go on the vacation and I maybe do a few things I don't normally do. And I come back and go back to what's now the normal path.
Right.
So it just completely flip-flops. And that did not happen overnight. That was such a process and so much to that. So,
Again, transformation. That's what really is going to give you lasting results, not a deadline. So as you're consistent and you're accumulating these whacks along the path, then where you're used to starting with nutrition, once you've carved that path, then that means you're now becoming somebody who's most of the time eating in response to true body hunger cues. You've kind of whacked away all those different reasons to eat of the mind. You've removed food. And so now when you're in that place, how much easier is it during those meal times to now do a little bit of changing with the nutrition and upgrade it? Where before, when we're trying to just do this, we're throwing the new nutritional things. These are the foods you're allowed to eat. These are the foods you're not. And you still have the old worn out pathway that you're like, but what about this craving? And what about this situation? And you're trying to not only change the food, but address all these things that you're not even really privy, you're not seeing when you're not conscious and aware, and you're fighting all of it, trying to force this new way of eating. That's what we say, like, I just need a break. I just needed a break
I just
because
needed a break.
no
Yep.
kidding.
Yeah.
So changing your nutrition, once you have this pathway that's newer, it's going to be so much easier. And you already said our thing with it is simple nutrition. It's still not changing nutrition to where it's just so
It's
limited
not a
and
restrictive
everything.
thing. It's more about getting the nutrients in, right? And because
Yeah.
once you already listen to your body, if you're filling your body with nutrients, you're craving the other stuff a lot less. There's a whole bunch of benefits that go with that we'll talk about another time.
Right.
But it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. So that, my friends, that's what transformation looks like.
Yeah.
If you're really saying to yourself, I want to stop dieting once and for all, it would just be so nice to just, if I knew that I can just do this thing and it would get me where I want to go and I can just stay there, then please embrace and understand and have the patience for the process of transformation. It takes time and consistent effort and quick recovery when you don't, line up in behavior with how you want to do it. And it's an accumulation and persistence day in and day out, and of making changes in the proper order, changing your food and your diet once you've already addressed the mind hunger and stopped giving food as a response. It'll be so much easier.
Yeah. It's amazing. Another amazing thing.
And it's cool. It's the same for anything you want to transform. Like,
absolutely.
If you want to be more patient with your kids, okay, we can have all the answers of why we should be, how to even do it. And it's like, no, every time before I react and yell or whatever it is that you used to do. For me, it was just raising my voice and like getting super annoyed. Okay, before I react to this, what's going on here? Calm down, right? Like, I'm not going to respond the same way. I'm going to respond a new way. And it's a practice of that. I don't become Mother Teresa overnight. It's a transformation. So it's no different with food. There's no reason to be in a huge hurry. Everything you're wanting that comes from weight loss is an emotion. You want to feel better about yourself. You want to feel accomplished. You can feel all that now along the way. You don't have to delay. So there's no hurry and there is no deadline.
Exactly. All right. I love it. Okay. Process, you all. Remember the process to weight management, the process to transformation, whatever that looks like for you. It's okay. It's one line upon line. It's just one step in front of the other and you get there. Lasting results are much more important than quick deadlines.
Exactly. All right. Thanks,
Have
you guys.
a good day. Bye, everyone.